Macmillan Audio presents The Summer of 1876. Written by Chris Wimmer. Read by Johnny Heller. With a preface and acknowledgments read by me, Chris Wimmer. Preface. The summer of 1876 was a transformative time in the Old West era and American history in general. In a 90-day period from mid-June to mid-September, 3 major events happened: the Battle of the Little Bighorn, the murder of Wild Bill Hickok, and the Northfield Raid. Moving parallel to those events, Wyatt Earp and Bat Masterson patrolled the streets of Dodge City together for the first time. Deadwood, the richest and one of the most notorious boomtowns in American history, exploded into life. And the National League of Baseball Clubs played its first season. A full understanding of the effects of that summer and the whole of 1876 would only be possible many years later when they could be viewed in full historical context. But the gravity of at least one event, the Battle of the Little Bighorn, was obvious in its own time. The American military had never suffered a loss to a Native American army like it did at the Little Bighorn. And the American psyche had never suffered a blow like it suffered when it learned that one of its heroes had been killed in such disastrous fashion. But then, as now, America was a vast nation. Most people and institutions were not directly affected by the Battle of the Little Bighorn, or any of the other battles in the spring, summer, and fall of 1876. Miners in Deadwood were solely focused on becoming rich. Lawmen in Dodge City were solely focused on corralling rowdy Texas cowboys. Baseball players in the East were solely focused on beating their opponents, and so on and so on. Everyone who could read devoured newspaper stories about the Army's campaign against the hostiles that summer, but they also devoured stories about bank robberies and the upcoming presidential election and the World's Fair in Philadelphia, and a myriad of other fascinating things. The goal of this book is to weave all those threads into a single narrative. It is intended to be an entertaining journey through the pivotal events of the summer of 1876. It is intentionally lean and fast-paced, and as such, it is not intended to be a deep dive into any one subject. I've relied heavily on wonderful books that were written by great authors, and you'll see their works in the bibliography. Those books provide all the detail you could ever want. Please find them wherever you buy your books. For those who want to continue with this journey, strap in. It's a wild ride.
Prologue. Red Cloud's War. Lakota War Chief Red Cloud stood on the hill like a commanding general and surveyed the engagement below with a critical eye. This was a test and a sizable gamble for the 45-year-old Oglala leader. He had persuaded hundreds of Lakota and Cheyenne warriors to remain on the high plains of northern Wyoming when the weather turned frigid, rather than retreat to their traditional winter camps in the Black Hills. But that wasn't Red Cloud's only feat of salesmanship in the winter of 1866. Next, he convinced the warriors to try a limited attack before an all-out assault. As always, the younger warriors wanted immediate action. They had little patience for talk and planning and incremental maneuvers. They craved chances for glory. But the war chief's voice carried weight, and Red Cloud won the debate. They would run a test before committing to a full-scale battle. And now Red Cloud stood on a hill in the freezing December weather and watched the test. 100 warriors attacked a group of U.S. Army soldiers on a knob of land dubbed Piney Island. The nickname was straightforward. The small chunk of land was nearly encircled by creeks and was covered with dense pine trees. It was at the base of the Bighorn Mountains, 4 miles west of the soldiers' base at Fort Phil Kearny. To build the fort, the soldiers first constructed a crude lumber mill on Piney Island. For the previous 6 months, detached...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?